As a single professional, I had debt and no savings after my divorce. I always wonder how I can start investing in real estate to secure my future. I studied programs that gave me all the benefits of investing in real estate. Some claim I could start with no money, but I could not find one that gave me the practical, actionable steps I needed. As a wealth advisor, I've met people that own real estate but weren't ahead financially. They were rich, but they weren't wealthy. Then I finally realized that there was one vital component missing that makes someone become wealthy or not. And on the show, I will reveal what I found and give you the step-by-step actions to start investing in real estate and increase your wealth. My name is Araceli. Let's get started. Welcome everyone. This is Araceli, Transition Wealth Advisor and real estate investor in the US and Canada. Today I have a very nice lady that I actually just met a couple of weeks ago in a real estate investing summit that we both attended. And it was really nice talking to her. And I think I want you to know a little bit about more how she got herself into real estate. So Carène holds a PhD in second languages from the University of Ottawa. And she's a part-time professor. And she's the co-founder and co-host of the Unconventional Voices Podcast. And all the links are below. I really encourage you to listen to her podcast. She has very interesting things to say. So Carène, tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you created this podcast.
Okay, so I'm, like you mentioned, I am a part-time professor at the University of Ottawa. I teach in languages, so second language education. I also teach qualitative research, again, part-time. And in terms of the podcast, how it got started, it's because I was questioning my whole academic route. So I was asking myself, what is it that I truly want to do after my PhD?
Mm-hmm.
What are the other alternatives beyond a tenured professor pathway?
Mm-hmm.
And I started listening to other people's podcasts. I saw a lot of PhD graduates who weren't necessarily in the academic realm. So I said, maybe there are other things that I can do. I've already had a stint in the government, so I knew that wasn't necessarily for me. So then I started really questioning the whole academic organization. Why doesn't it prepare you for anything other than professor and tenureship? So then I asked one of my he was my teaching assistant for one of my courses. And I'm like, do you want to start a podcast? I'm questioning the whole institution. Would you be interested? And he said, yes. And that's how the Unconventional Voices started. The Unconventional Voices, because we're talking about all the alternative routes to academia. We're talking about socio and economic issues while you're doing your PhD, after you're done your PhD, etc. So we're really attacking the subject of graduate studies from an unconventional way.
Well, that's amazing. So you are already a disruptor. That's what I call it, right? But you being so busy and having so high studies, I know you're a real estate investor. Tell me about that. How did that come about? Why did you want to become an investor?
So I fell into investing completely by accident. And when you say I'm a disruptor, that's actually very intuitive of you, because my whole framework or my epistemology is critical race theory, where we're really questioning the whole and disrupting the whole status quo. So that was very perceptive of you. So I came into it by accident because I started working at a really young age. I started working at 15 and I started putting money away at 15.
Wow.
And then at the time, my father said, oh, put your money away in Canada savings bonds. When he put money away in those CSBs, the interest rate was really high at during his time. But by the time my turn rolled around for me to invest in CSBs, the interest rate, if I'm not mistaken, back in the day was 0.05%.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't how like, but I didn't understand any of that. Like
Yeah.
interest rate, CSBs, investing, I didn't understand any of this. So I was like, again, I was very young, very lucky, still living at home, still doing my studies. And my neighbor decided to that he reached retirement age and he wanted to purchase, like he wanted to sell his home. So my parents got talking to him and said, we have our daughter, she had put money away. CSBs at the time were coming to an end also, like the whole government put an end to the Canada Savings Bonds program. So they said, well, she needs somewhere to put her money. This would be a good investment. Mm-hmm. And my neighbor was like, well, okay, we can have an arrangement. We knew the house. We had been his neighbor for a while. We knew the house. We knew who he was. We knew he had changed the furnace, water tank, done the roof, done the flooring, like all those important things that you would actually go in and have an inspector check for you. We knew he had it done. So that's how I got my first home, which was off the market through conversation with my neighbor, and completely by accident because my parents told me, like, CSB's low, invest in a home, you'll have money in the future.
Well, so there's actually a few things that I just want to point out here in your story. First of all, your parents encouraged you to save, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but they only knew one thing, which is the Canada Savings Bonds. And as you know, things change over time.
Drastically.
And so, but you follow their advice, and because you were perceptive, or your parents were perceptive about the changes around the environment and what happened in the neighborhood, they said, okay, they understood that now the savings bonds didn't pay that much. So they say, okay, why don't you just buy that? So this is so important because you know what? You are very fortunate that your parents encouraged you at an early age to do that. Not everybody is the same. And I'm telling you, because that's my story. And it's not because they didn't want to. I believe that my parents wanted the best thing for me. However, they didn't know any better. And they only encouraged me to do, to follow my career and become an employee, and I'll be happy ever after, which it doesn't really happen. So tell me about, so what happened to this property? What did you do with it? How did it become an investment property?
So from the get-go, like I knew I wasn't going to live in it because it was like I just knew I wasn't going to live. Like it's my house, it's my home. Eventually I would like to, but eventually in the future, I would like to, it's my first baby. I'll never sell it.
Yeah.
But I at the point where I had purchased the house, I knew I was still living at home, so I wasn't ready to move out because I was still in school.
Yeah.
So, and my parents were like, it's probably a good idea if you rent it. So a lot of I took a lot of advice, good advice from my parents. So they said it's probably a good idea if you rent it. So that's how I got into it. So again, I knew nothing. I knew nothing of renting. I knew nothing of ownership. I knew absolutely nothing. I went in blind, and I'm very glad I did, because the more I listen to the podcast, more debate I hear about renting is better than purchasing, or purchasing is better than renting. If you purchase, you have like a whole responsibility. You have to make sure like the driveway is clean, you mow the lawn. Like if anything happens to the house, it's your responsibility. But I went in there without any knowledge of that, any knowledge. So I was like, and it was the best thing for me because I went in there cold. I rented it out. Yes, I had a few bad apples, but I also have a property manager, and that absolutely helped manage the bad apples, helped me manage the whole rental property. If anything happens, I have insurance on the water tank, the furnace, the AC, like, so I pay monthly. I have insurance if anything happens, so peace of mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, yes, things can go wrong. Yes, you may have bad tenants, but there's things you can put in place to mitigate those risks. And I'm so glad I went in there cold without overthinking it, because I wouldn't have done it if I knew all of those details.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You see, this is one of the things that a lot of people that they want to start in real estate don't understand. There is so many moving parts in the whole transaction, the whole maintenance of everything, that people don't really understand it fully. And some of them, like yourself, you are, moving forward. Okay, you're learning. You're saying, okay, well, this happened. How can I mitigate that? And that is very good of you. But also, for this is for our viewers, people need to understand what they are, what are
Mhm.
they capable of doing, and what are they willing to do as well. Because I believe everybody's capable of maintaining real estate. It is not a rocket science. It is sometimes a little bit annoying, a little bit difficult, but that goes with the territory. I think what you gain, it just completely wipes out anything that it's inconvenience or not there. So tell me, what is the one thing that you don't like about real estate that kind of was hard for you to manage?
The frustration that maybe the tenants don't care about your house so much as much
Yeah.
as you do. Because one of them, a funny story, they took my drapes when they moved out.
Oh
They claimed that it was theirs, but I'm like, no, it's mine. But okay, I'll let it go.
no.
Like, what?
Oh
Okay,
gosh.
it's gone. It's okay. I want you out of my house. Also, I don't know what happened, but brand new floors. Like I told you, when my neighbor moved out, he had redone the floors, and they had a sofa or something. I feel like they took a nail to the floor and scratched it. Uh,
Uh-huh.
so those things are very annoying. But what I learned was it is absolutely necessary to, when tenants move in, take pictures of everything,
Yeah.
get them to sign that document.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that, because this is one of the things that I see people doing the transition. So if you've never been a real estate investor, you want your tenant to do exactly what you would do if you were in the house, taking care of it, repairing things, making sure that as soon as something gets crashed, move around, whatever it is, that you fix it right away. That's how I like. But one of the things that people need to understand going into become a real estate investor is that you are not that person, and you're actually renting this space, and you have to kind of be a little bit detached of what happens to the house. Definitely there's going to be more wear and tear than your own property or the way that you would treat your own property, but it's far not important when you're getting lots of appreciation and you're getting cash flow every month, right? It's the cost of doing business. And if you are prepared to do that, the one thing that you could do is obviously use materials that are easily replaceable and that they don't need a lot of maintenance. So that is actually a really great point. So if you know somebody that is going to get started in real estate and they don't know anything about, what would be your advice knowing what you know today?
My first advice is to put more that I don't know if this is advice you would agree with, but um in in the long run, put more than 5% down payment, put at least a 20% so you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
pay those extra fees. Because I mean, everything takes away from your cash flow, right? So every little expense adds up and takes away from your cash flow. So if you want that the most return, uh put down that 20% down payment so that you don't have to pay the mortgage fees. Own your furnace, own your water tank, because again, that takes away from extra fees that you don't need to
Yeah.
pay in the future. um don't buy a house that is above and beyond your means. Definitely buy something that you can afford. Get a property manager if you don't want to get your hands dirty. I know a lot of people say, oh, it's best if you get your hands dirty and you get to know your house and you know how to fix things. Yeah, sure, if you have time, but I also have a part-time job on top of a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not realistic for me to get phone calls at 2 a.m. in the morning. So get a property manager who will be able to take those calls and take care of the situation immediately. And location is key. And don't go into a bidding war. Like I've been looking at houses for a very long time now just to see if I can purchase a second property. But they're too expensive, and I don't want to go into a bidding war. And if it's a investment property, like you just have to wear a different hat when you're
Yeah.
purchasing.
Oh, absolutely. And you touch up in so many things, and I think it's just by doing. Just remember, real estate is a contact sport. You actually have to do it. I don't care how many books you've ever read about real estate. If you really want to understand it for yourself, because everybody's different, right? Like everybody has different levels of comfort about what you do. For example, you like to hire a property manager, you don't want to deal with the tenants. I still do my property management because it's easy, it's convenient. I like it. I have the time to do it. So you have to understand, and I think that's very important when you're becoming a real estate investor, to know exactly what your limitations are. And they're not bad. They're just yours in order to make your real estate investing successful, which you've done. And that is fantastic. So I really, really enjoy talking to you. This is something that a lot of people will really resonate with, because your story is like many others that people just kind of fell into. I actually fell into real estate myself, and it just happened to be something that I was never encouraged to do, but I ended up doing it. And believe me, I want more people to know this. And that's what I bring different people to share their story, because everything keeps pointing out to the same things. So thank you so much, Carène, for being here. I really appreciate your time and sharing your story, which I think many of the listeners are going to find very inspirational.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome so much. And guys, just remember, if you like to hear more stories like this, make sure that you subscribe and like and share the story. And we will see you in the next one. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here on the show. Please remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell to get notified when there are more shows available. And if you would like to have more information on how to start investing in real estate, please visit my website at www.aracelyhernandez.com. Thank you.